Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network for novel. I have become the villain of the novel. Has time travel become the antagonist of novels? Since I'm here, there won't be any protagonist or anything else. I, Jiang Hao, have made a comeback. From now on, the plot only needs to revolve around me. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Am I the villain? New book seeking support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Have I traveled? Yes, host. Did you still wear it into a small piece of white text? Yes, host. More importantly, I am actually a villain. Yes, host. Inside the red Ferrari, Jiang Hao murmured softly to the rearview mirror. Every question has a mechanical sound. The person in the mirror is still himself, trying to prove that his body has not changed, but Jiang Hao has indeed traveled through time. A moment ago, he was still taking a walk in the community when an unidentified high-altitude object fell from the sky. Before he had a chance to see what it was, Jiang Hao woke up here again, and there were many memories in his mind that didn't belong to him. System. Jiang Hao shouted again. Hello, host. Please explain in detail your purpose. The responsibility of this system is to assist Xiao Beiwen's Gao Fushuai in his comeback. As is well known, Gao Fushuai in Xiao Beiwen is basically a villain, who is trying to force the protagonist, which seriously insults Gao Fushuai's intelligence. The system uses mechanical language to speak confidently. I don't know if it's an illusion, Jiang Hao always feels. When the system mentions Xiao Beiwen and Gao Fushuai, the mechanical voice clearly fluctuates, as if angry and disdainful. Finally, Jiang Hao came to the conclusion. This is a system that hates Xiao Beiwen and wants to defend against all the wealthy and handsome people. In short, the host's goal is to step on the protagonist of this book, seize his luck and all other items. Embark on a journey of high wealth and handsome counterattack. The introduction of the system finally ends. Jiang Hao nodded and immediately fell into contemplation. Of course he has read this little white text. This book tells the story of the male protagonist named Ye Feng, who returns to the city after making a mistake in the army. In this book, the first villain to appear is the wealthy second generation named Jiang Hao. That is my current self. In the original work, Jiang Hao conflicts with the protagonist of this book over women. Not only did he face multiple slaps, but the final outcome was extremely tragic. Thinking of these, Jiang Hao immediately shivered. Anyway, he doesn't want to end up like this. The plot has officially begun, please prepare the host. The system's prompt interrupted Jiang Hao's contemplation. After getting off the car, he found himself in front of a luxurious office building. This is the company of the first female lead Xia Xiu, mainly engaged in luxury goods such as women's clothing and handbags, and it is also a publicly listed company. Not long. A woman wearing an OL suit, black hair draped over her shoulders, and delicate features walked out. The woman's head was raised to her eyebrows, and she didn't speak or smile. However, her excellent appearance and perfect figure curve instantly attracted passers-by to exclaim in amazement. If it weren't for the concern of the two burly bodyguards behind, many people would have approached and approached. She is Xia Xiu. An extremely powerful and inner desire to be protected female powerhouse. Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao. Jiang Hao stepped forward, and the two bodyguards quickly bowed and spoke. When Xia Xiu saw Jiang Hao, her beautiful eyes showed a lot of disgust. Jiang Hao, tell your two bodyguards to leave quickly. They're circling around me like two flies, disgusting. Xia Xiu frowned slightly, her voice icy. In the original work, Jiang Hao had a strong possessiveness, and the Jiang and Xia families had long been in marriage and had the idea of forming a strong alliance. After learning that Xia Xiu has been frequently harassed recently, Jiang Hao ordered his bodyguards to protect him. Saying it's protection, actually I want to swear sovereignty through it. Regarding this, Xia Siyu is certainly unwilling. Unfortunately, both her father and mother thought it was a good idea, and she could only bear it. Okay. Jiang Haoshuang quickly agreed and gave a glance to the two bodyguards. The bodyguards were a bit confused about this, and after confirming repeatedly, they dared to leave step by step. Xia Siyu was also somewhat surprised. After all, Jiang Hao had never been so articulate before. Counterattack value +5. The sound of system prompts comes to mind. What is the counterattack value? Jiang Hao is completely confused, but now is not the time to inquire about the system. Although the plot has already begun, it belongs to Jiang Hao, and the protagonist Ye Feng will not appear for a while. And now what Jiang Hao needs to do is to do his best to change his destiny. Let's go to your house. Without giving Xia Siyu a good face, Jiang Hao turned his head and left. Come to Ferrari. Seeing Xia Siyu still in a daze, he pursed his lips and directly started the engine, leaving alone. What? Looking at the Ferrari soaring away, Xia Siyu raised a question mark. Just now, she made many excuses in her mind to refuse to ride the same car as Jiang Hao. But before they could even speak up, they actually left on their own. And what kind of ghost was that indifferent gaze before leaving? Is this still the same as Jiang Hao, who always pays great attention to himself every day and tries every way to please him? Did he take the wrong medicine today? Xia Siyu could only mutter in the end. The Xia family villa is located in the bustling area of Luqing, with every inch of land being worth every penny. Red Ferrari and white Maserati arrived one after another. After entering the villa, Jiang Hao still did not wait for Xia Siyu, but entered the villa alone. What about the female CEO? What about the beautiful woman? At least my current self is also a second-generation wealthy person. If you don't treat me well, I won't treat you yet. Anyway, I won't be a licking dog in this life. Licking a dog until the end will only result in nothing. The ending of the original work Jiang Hao is the best interpretation. Arriving at the living room, two middle-aged men and women were sitting on the sofa chatting. They are the parents of Jiang Hao and Xia Siyu, respectively. The relationship between the Jiang and Xia families is good, and it's not the first time they've gathered together to eat at home like this. Seeing Jiang Hao enter, Xia Siyu's father, Xia Zhong, smiled and said, "Xiao Hao, you have finally come back. I was just talking to your parents about you and Siyu. That's right, you're not young anymore. We plan to." Jiang Hao's mother agreed with a smile. Before the words could be finished, the voice suddenly stopped. The four people on the sofa looked behind Jiang Hao and asked, "Where is Siyu?" Jiang Hao didn't respond and sat down before expressionlessly saying, "You guys are right here. Today, I have something to announce. I think it's better to keep some distance between Miss Siyu and me." What? How have you been stimulated by something? Xia Siyu's parents were startled and jumped up, while Jiang Hao's parents looked even more bewildered. At this moment, Xia Siyu happened to enter the villa. She stood at the door blinking incessantly, feeling as if she had hallucinations. Jiang Hao, who constantly pesters her on a regular basis, no matter how repulsive she appears, still perseveres surprisingly. He took the initiative to keep a distance from her. Chapter 2 Another Way. New book seeking support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The villa's anger became awkward. Jiang Hao's parents subconsciously believed that Xia Siyu might have done something else, otherwise Jiang Hao wouldn't have been so abnormal. Xia's parents also feel the same way. Although they are eager to match Jiang Hao and Xia Siyu, they are well aware of the actual situation. Just one thing, the parents of the Xia family really don't understand. Setting aside Jiang Hao's family background, he has been educated by elites since childhood and does not have the same dandy as other wealthy second-generation people. He is definitely a good partner. Where is the summer rain? From childhood to adulthood, she never gave Jiang Hao any face. Xia Siyu's father, named Xia Guodong. Xia Guodong served in the military in his early years, but due to certain reasons, he retired. In the end, under the care of the elderly Xia family, he established a commercial company. Nowadays, Xia Guodong has entered a semi-retired state, and most of the affairs are entrusted to Xia Siyu for management. Although he is usually very friendly, there is still a bit of irritability in his bones. Seeing Jiang Hao's parents looking a bit embarrassed, Xia Guodong slammed the coffee table and stood up. Nonsense. Siyu, what did you do? How could you hurt Xiao Hao's heart so much? Xia Sayubi gritted her teeth tightly and swallowed for a moment. How does she know why? Today, Jiang Hao felt like he took the wrong medicine and never gave her a good face from beginning to end. I'm so angry, how could you be so ungrateful? Xia Guodong scolded again, feeling a bit breathless as he spoke. Seeing this, Jiang Hao quickly stood up to help. Xia Guodong is only in his 50s now, and the reason for preparing for retirement early is mainly due to a heart problem. The doctor has instructed that if not properly regulated, one should quit being dry and angry. Xia Guodong is in danger of having a heart attack and dying at any time. Therefore, even though Xia Siyu disliked Jiang Hao extremely, she never dared to directly refuse Xia Guodong's arrangement. Lao Xia, don't be angry. That's right, your illness is unbearable. Both Jiang Hao and Siyu are still young, we need to take things slowly. Jiang Hao's parents quickly dissuaded him upon seeing the situation. At this moment, Xia Siyu was both anxious and aggrieved, with many tears streaming through her phoenix eyes. Worried that stepping forward to help would make Xia Guodong even more angry, she could only lower her head and let her long hair cover her face. Even at this moment, Xia Siyu doesn't want to show weakness. At the same time, she also understood. What happened today is probably Jiang Hao's plan. I want to pressure her in this way and force her to change her attitude. I used to think you were just a bit annoying, but now. Jiang Hao, you make me feel nauseous. Xia Siyu shouted in her heart. Just when she decided that even if she died, she wouldn't marry Jiang Hao. Uncle Xia, you misunderstood Siyu. Today's incident really has nothing to do with her. Jiang Hao looked serious and spoke exceptionally clearly. Counterattack +10. Xia Siyu suddenly looked up. She rubbed her ears and once again suspected that she had hallucinations. The conclusion she had just reached was somewhat untenable at the moment. Good kid, he's really a good kid. Xia Guodong was deeply moved and gave Jiang Hao a heavy pat on the shoulder. Although Jiang Hao was wronged, he turned around to help Xia Siyu intercede. Such a good young man, he can't even find a lantern. Siyu, I apologize to Jiang Hao. At least you are also a female CEO, so you cannot be capricious in everything. Xia Mu took the opportunity to speak. Apologize. Xia Siyu refused 10,000 times. Leaving aside her dominant personality, why should she apologize for not doing anything wrong? The already somewhat relaxed atmosphere has once again become awkward. Xia Guodong's breathing was heavy, and his fierce mouth undulated fiercely, faintly on the edge of the attack. Uncle Xia, Auntie Xia. It's not really Siyu's fault for what happened today, and if anyone really needs to apologize, it's also me. Jiang Hao sighed deeply, his tone mixed with many emotions. Everyone was puzzled and confused. After glancing at Xia Siyu, Jiang Hao said again, actually, I've already noticed that Siyu doesn't like me at all. I shouldn't force her, let alone make her angry just because it's okay. Counterattack value +20. Xiaohao, are you? Xia Guodong was almost confused. If it weren't for the unrealistic reality, he would probably doubt whether what was in front of him was Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao has a handsome appearance and does not have the personality flaws of a wealthy second generation. But everyone present knows that Jiang Hao has an almost crazy obsession with Xia Xiu. More indescribable possessiveness. But now everyone was extremely surprised, and Xia Xiu couldn't believe it, feeling that her intelligence was not enough. "Son, are you running a fever? Why are you talking nonsense?" Jiang's mother anxiously approached and touched Jiang Hao's forehead. "Mom, what I'm saying is true. The reason why I said I wanted to keep a distance was to give Xiu time to think. During this time, I won't pester her, nor will I do anything that would make her dislike her." Jiang Hao responded firmly. Xia's mother let out a faint sigh. Xia Guodong gave Xiu a fierce glare, and his gaze seemed to say, "Are you stupid? Don't let such a good man go." As for Jiang Hao's parents, they saw that Jiang Hao had no intention of joking, and in the end, they could only stop persuading him. At this moment, Xia Xiu, who had remained silent all along, finally spoke up. She took a deep breath and looked directly at Jiang Hao. "Don't think that if you play some tricks, I will change my mind. Since I'm speaking freely, I'll tell you too. I really don't have any good feelings for you." Although the words were sharp, the knife saw blood, and the voice was even more cold and heartless. But Jiang Hao just smiled. He knows better than anyone, hiding beneath Xia Xiu's strong exterior, that extremely insecure heart. Xia Xiu is very intelligent. She doesn't believe that people can change so quickly, so she still doubts Jiang Hao's motives in the end. But nothing can be rushed. Although Jiang Hao decided not to lick the dog, Xia Xiu is still the first female lead and a must-conquer target. The strategy still needs to be explored, just in a different way. "Xiu, you're also tired from work. Why don't you go up and rest first? I'll take care of Uncle Xia." Jiang Hao didn't retort, with a smile that made people feel like they were basking in spring breeze. Xia Xiu suddenly froze. Former Jiang Hao looked at him with admiration, but more of a "why you" gaze. But now, it has become incredibly clean. Has he really changed? This idea came to Xia Xiu's mind. But this idea had just appeared, but she shook her head and dispelled it. Rivers and mountains are easy to change, nature is hard to change. Not wanting to face the reproachful gaze from her parents, Xia Xiu nodded and agreed. Before going upstairs, she gave Jiang Hao a deep glance before saying to Xia Guodong, "Dad, I'm not here to make you angry. You should take the medicine quickly." Not long after Xia Xiu left. Taking the medicine handed by Jiang Hao, Xia Guodong poured it into his throat with clean water inside again. "Ah. Xiaohao, you have suffered." Chapter 3. The Almighty Perspective of God, New Book Seeks Support. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Actually, all of this is due to Xiu's personality. She's used to being dominant, and sooner or later she'll figure it out, Xia's mother quickly answered. With such a commotion, Jiang Hao and his parents also lost the desire to eat at the Xia family. After Xia Guodong improved, the three of them casually made an excuse and stood up to bid farewell. Leaving Ferrari at the Xia family, Jiang Hao sat on his parents' Bentley. "Hao, what exactly are you thinking?" Jiang's mother couldn't help but ask. Jiang's mother's real name is Jiang Lan. Although she is in middle age, she maintains herself very well. Under various expensive skincare products, she looks at most 30 years old. The Jiang family is a rising family, and its important reason is because of Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan's maternal family is prominent, although not as prestigious as the top wealthy families of ***, it is not comparable to the families of Luxia. After Jiang's father and Jiang Lan got married, they quickly established themselves in Luxia with the help of the Jiang family's abilities. Overall, Jiang Lan is in charge of the Jiang family, and most of Jiang's father's daily affairs, except for company matters, are handled by Jiang Lan. After hearing Jiang Lan's words, Jiang's father also wondered, are you moving on to another woman and falling in love with another woman? Let's first say that Xia Siyu is the daughter.in.law that your mother and I have already agreed on. What nonsense. Is Hao that kind of person? Jiang Lan rolled her eyes. Thinking about it, Jiang's father stopped talking and waited for Jiang Hao's answer. Parents, don't worry. Your daughter.in.law won't run away, it's just that I plan to change the way. Helpless, Jiang Hao could only explain casually. Worried about his parents questioning him, he said, and if Xia Siyu doesn't like me, what is the meaning of being together? For some reason, Jiang Lan always felt that Jiang Hao was a bit different. But for a while, she couldn't say it accurately. The group quickly returned home. The Jiang family is some distance away from the Xia family and is a standalone villa in the suburbs. The reason why Jiang Lan lives here is because she likes to be quiet on weekdays, and the noise in the city center makes her very uncomfortable. Having dinner with his parents, Jiang Hao quickly returned to his room. Arriving at his bedroom, he now had the consciousness of a wealthy second generation for the first time. The spacious bedroom is decorated in a magnificent manner, with a wool carpet on the ground and dazzling glass lamps on the top. And in front of the French window in the bedroom, there is a piano with an air of simplicity. Stretching lazily, Jiang Hao sat down on the sofa in the bedroom and said, "System. Host, I'm here." The system's response rang out quickly. What exactly is the counterattack value? The system displays a property panel, which is then explained consecutively. Answer the host, the counterattack value is the reward provided by the system when the host changes the original plot. The counterattack value has many uses, such as exchanging skills and strengthening your own attributes. It is necessary to remind the host that although the host's behavior can trigger the butterfly effect, the worlds will forcibly twist, and the big plot that should happen will also occur. Of course, if the counterattack value reaches a certain value, it can completely break a certain plot. Jiang Hao understands. Counterattack value is nothing more than the foundation of counterattack, the more of these things, the better. Due to the will of the world, he still cannot change the plot. The plot referred to here is only the occurrence of the main plot, not the process and ending. Give an example. Jiang Hao's primary enemy is the protagonist of this book, Ye Feng. No matter what Jiang Hao did or said, it caused the butterfly effect. But Ye Feng will still meet Xia Siyu in a different way. Simply put, the main plot remains unchanged, while the minor plot can be manipulated. After memorizing these things in his mind, Jiang Hao checked his attribute panel again. Host. Jiang Hao, self-attributes. Strength 3, Speed 5, Reaction 4, Charm 5, the average value for ordinary people is 5, assets under name. Approximately 100 million yuan, skills. Appreciation LV3, Foreign language LV4, Driving LV2, Piano LV3, Fighting LV1, the highest level for ordinary people is LV5, counterattack value. 30 points, counterattack completion rate. 0%, opposition to Ye Feng. 0%, for every 100 points of counterattack value, a skill can be upgraded by one level or an attribute can be added. For every 1000 points of counterattack value, a new skill can be purchased. After the completion and opposition of the counterattack reach a certain level, the system will reward the host with a counterattack value. The host currently has 30 counterattack points and cannot be used at this time. Please work hard. The system tirelessly explains. After digesting the above information, Jiang Hao could only shake his head helplessly. In order to become stronger and on the path of counterattack, he is destined to confront Ye Feng. To be honest, Jiang Hao felt quite confused in his heart. Looking at his physical attributes, he has been pampered all year round, surprisingly lower than the average of ordinary people. And all the skills I know are just some chicken ribs. You can tell with your toes that the skills of the protagonist Ye Feng are definitely outrageous. Although the highest level of skill for an ordinary person is LV5, is Ye Feng an ordinary person? He is the protagonist, possessing a protagonist aura. Seemingly sensing Jiang Hao's hesitation, the system's voice rang out again. Host, please don't back down. You read the original work carefully, know all the plot and character relationships, these are the real capital for your comeback. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Hao's eyes lit up instantly. Yes, although his abilities are not as good as Ye Feng's now, he is completely from a god's perspective. Sometimes, sufficient information is definitely the most advantageous weapon, and Jiang Hao is rich. Money can make ghosts grind, and with the perspective of God, Ye Feng, who can definitely deceive, doubts life. Although the assets listed in the system are only 1 billion, it only calculates the assets under Jiang Hao's name. And the assets of the Jiang family, but the family's company has a market value of billions. After thinking about these things, Jiang Hao became more confident and began to consider the next strategy. If nothing unexpected happens, Ye Feng should make an appearance in the next few days. What needs to be done now is to postpone Ye Feng's appearance and leave enough preparation time for oneself. I remember Ye Feng seemed to be entrusted by Grandpa Xia to apply for the position of bodyguard at Xia Siyu's company. Jiang Hao's eyes suddenly lit up. Unlike Xia's father and mother, Xia Siyu's grandfather dotes on her extremely and almost always responds to her requests. Although Grandpa Xia also has a good impression of Jiang Hao, he pays more attention to Xia Siyu's ideas. If it weren't for this, the two would have gotten married long ago and wouldn't have dragged on until now. The reason why we need to find a bodyguard for Xia Siyu is also partly due to Jiang Hao. Recently, Xia Siyu has been frequently harassed. According to the plot of the original work, Xia Siyu received a threatening letter that inexplicably appeared in her office. And the bodyguard sent by Jiang Hao actually didn't notice at all. After realizing that this was an opportunity, Xia Siyu went to Grandpa Xia to report that Jiang Hao's bodyguard was useless and requested to be evacuated. Chapter 4. The Bodyguard of the Female CEO. New book seeking support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When it comes to the safety of his beloved granddaughter, Grandpa Xia didn't dare to be careless and immediately dialed the phone of his old friend in the army, followed by Ye Feng, the female CEO's personal bodyguard. This kind of plot should not appear. Jiang Hao joked. As the saying goes, a tower near a water receives the moon first. Close bodyguards are definitely the biggest stumbling block on Jiang Hao's path to counterattack. Buzzing. In my thoughts, there was a vibrating sound coming from the phone beside me. Jiang Hao looked at the 3 words Xia Siyu on his phone screen with a puzzled expression. Xia Siyu actually called herself. Is it because the sun is shining to the west? Jiang Hao. How many times do you really need to use this boring trick? I thought you had made some slight improvements, but I didn't expect you to still be so shameless. Quickly remove the person you sent to follow me. As soon as the phone was connected, Xia Siyu's suppressed and angry voice came through. Upon hearing this, Jiang Hao's heart thumped. It is impossible for a person to be sent by him, and due to his previous actions, Xia Siyu's suspicion of himself is understandable. Where are you? Jiang Hao asked. You don't know where I am. Don't think your little tricks can deceive me. Doodle. Xia Siyu's voice became even colder and she hung up the phone. It seems impossible to conquer Xia Siyu for a while, Jiang Hao sighed helplessly, holding his phone. Xia Siyu is the first female lead, and if she successfully attacks, she is sure to receive a significant amount of counterattack points. However, due to his extremely negative impression of Jiang Hao and his strong personality, the strategy is not something that can be achieved overnight. However, Jiang Hao is not in a hurry either. He still needs to solve the problems that Xia Siyu has encountered. It's easy to find out where Xia Siyu is. She is a very disciplined person who, apart from work, rarely engages in social activities. So there is only one place she will go. At this moment, the night was hazy and the lights in Lujiang were brightly lit. Xia Siyu's posture was Maserati, and she rushed all the way on the ring highway. After glancing at the phone in her hand, she looked through the rearview mirror at a black pickup truck behind her, her face frosty. Besides Jiang Hao, who else would send someone to track him? Moreover, the car behind her kept following and did not take any extreme actions, which further confirmed Xia Siyu's thoughts in her heart. Thinking of what happened today, Xia Siyu couldn't help but feel angry. Inexplicably scolded by her parents, and after Jiang Hao and his family left, Xia's mother kept doing ideological work for her. Siyu, Jiang Hao is definitely your best destination. I'm afraid only he can tolerate your personality. Although Jiang Hao has a stronger possessiveness, it's also a sign of caring about you. Anyway, your father said that the son-in-law in this life can only be Jiang Hao. Also, even your grandfather admires Jiang Hao greatly, why are you so stubborn? Thinking of these words, Xia Siyu couldn't help but burst out and slammed on the accelerator again. Humph! Maserati let out a pleasant sound, instantly accelerating, and the red headlights pulled out a brilliant arc in the night sky. The pickup truck in the rear saw the situation and quickly accelerated. Two cars, one in front and one behind, got off the highway and stopped in front of the Rose Club. Rose Club is a high-end club that integrates bars, fitness, and entertainment. The membership system is adopted here, and non-members are not allowed to enter. And the members who enter the lowest level of the Rose Club need to pay 500,000 Chinese dollars every year. Xia Siyu got off the car and handed it over to the staff of the club for parking. In his spare time, he caught a glimpse of the pickup truck parked further away. Today's situation has made her, who has always been calm, restless. With a stomp of her foot, Xia Siyu walked straight towards the pickup truck. Bang bang. Continuously tapping the window of the pickup truck, Xia Siyu coldly said, "Enough tracking. You can go reply to your master now." The car window rolled down, and the two big men inside were a bit confused. They are all bald, not only have well-developed muscles, but also have many tattoos on their arms and arms. Xia Siyu withdrew her hand, instinctively feeling that something was wrong. Previously, the people sent by Jiang Hao to track her looked like dogs, but the two in front of them didn't seem to be good at picking fights. But in the end, she firmly believed that Jiang Hao was definitely the initiator of all of this. After all, besides Jiang Hao, who else could there be? Miss Xia, according to your tone, you seem to know who the person behind me is. The leading man got off the car and lit a cigarette, asking. What do you think? Xia Siyu asked back. Upon hearing this, the big man was clearly taken aback. This conversation is a bit strange. In theory, Xia Siyu should not have noticed it now. I really can't figure it out, and the big man is too lazy to think carefully. He suddenly had a fierce expression and a fierce look in his eyes, saying, since that's the case, I advise you to restrain yourself. If you tear your face, everyone will not look good. Jiang Hao strongly opposes Xia Siyu's visit to the Rose Club. Because there are too many young masters here, and wherever Xia Siyu goes, it will definitely become the focus of everyone. For this matter, the two often and even once caused trouble with Grandpa Xia, causing the Xia family to be extremely anxious. Upon hearing that Jiang Hao was threatening himself and even tearing his face apart, Xia Siyu smiled directly, with an infinite coldness mixed in his smile. Find out where I go is personal freedom. He has no right, let alone the right to gossip about me. What? De Han is confused, this conversation is not right again. Sensing that Xia Siyu might have misunderstood something, he was too lazy to explain and prepared to return to the pickup truck. I didn't expect him to still deal with people from all walks of life like you, it really makes me feel ashamed. Xia Siyu's voice echoed from behind. This sentence stunned the big man's figure. Suddenly turning his head, his appearance became extremely ferocious, and even blue veins appeared on his neck. This woman, with her arrogant tone, actually looks down on him. This place is remote, and the club is 100 meters away. If it weren't for not receiving orders from those behind her, Xia Xiyu would definitely have paid the price for her words and actions today. Zhi, the brakes suddenly sounded. Jiang Hao drove another sports car and got off in front of everyone's attention. The big man squinted his eyes for a while and then clicked his lips. Xia Xiyu's expression was as expected, and a look of disgust immediately appeared. "Follow me." Jiang Hao grabbed Xia Xiyu's wrist and his words were beyond doubt. Xia Xiyu naturally refused. But she had never seen Jiang Hao so serious before, and this dominant attitude made her suddenly unsure how to respond. Sending the dull Xia Xiyu onto the car, Jiang Hao looked at the big Han and said, "I will personally visit Mr. Li another day." Boom! The sports car roared like a roar, gradually disappearing from the sight of the big man. "Boss, it seems like we're exposed." Another big guy got off the car and scratched his cheek. "Let's expose it, anyway, this matter won't be kept hidden for long. And even if it's exposed, it's good to let the people of Lushur know about our existence. Now I'm just a little strange, why does Jiang Shao look like a man today?" "That's right, you didn't look at Xia Xiyu's expression just now, you just got confused." Chapter 5. Coming to you for gifts, new book for support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Xiyu is confused. After driving 100 meters away, she finally regained her senses. She inexplicably got into Jiang Hao's car. And also scared by Jiang Hao's dominant attitude. Immediately turning her head, Xia Xiyu looked at Jiang Hao with a calm expression and wanted to scold him. But what's the use of this? Xia Xiyu let out a faint sigh, it was just a mental injury. Wait a minute. She suddenly had her pupils shrink again. Just now, when Jiang Hao was talking to that big man, he seemed to mention a character named Mr. Li. Who is Mr. Li? Xia Xiyu was lost in thought. With the ability of the Xia family, well-known figures in Lushur naturally know very well. But there is no one named Li Yi on this list. To make me believe it, you actually made up a character, you really put in a lot of effort. Xia Xiyu changed her cold face again. Jiang Hao was too lazy to argue with her, so he increased the throttle and directly sent Xia Xiyu back to the Xia family. Be careful lately, sometimes don't be too smart. Jiang Hao said before getting off the car. After Jiang Hao left, Jiang's mother quickly welcomed him out. As she watched Jiang Hao drive away from the sports car, she couldn't stop laughing and said, "Well, it's normal for a couple to argue. You see how kind Jiang Hao is, even though he has suffered a lot of injustice, he specially sent you home." Xia Xiyu didn't respond, her eyes a bit dull. She was born intelligent, and now, upon closer reflection, there was indeed something wrong with today's situation. When talking to the big man first, one can clearly see the confusion in his eyes. Secondly, it is common for Jiang Hao to send people to track her, but this has never been denied. Also, if all of this is just to win her favor, why didn't Jiang Haogan argue for himself? Did she really misunderstand? After all, Jiang Hao's change is indeed very obvious, with less previous flattery and possession, and a bit more real worry. Returning home, Jiang Haochang breathed a sigh of relief. Today's situation is indeed very dangerous. If he arrives one step late, I don't know what will happen. This is actually the butterfly effect. Due to Jiang Hao withdrawing his bodyguards, it was only then that Li Yi dared to openly send someone to follow Xia Xiyu. No one knows Mr. Li's full name because he is not originally from Lushur. As written in the original work, Li Yi was ruthless and narrow-minded, selfish, and only recently developed in Lushur. A while ago, Xia Xiyu spent a lot of money to purchase a piece of land in order to build a factory. Little did they know that the land was first favored by Mr. Li. Knowing that the Xia family is not just a simple character, but Li Yi couldn't swallow this breath and vented his anger through various means. In the original plot, the threatening letter sent to Xia Xiu was also written by Mr. Li. As for the revenge of the Xia family, Mr. Li is really not afraid. Without a background, who dares to confront a wealthy family like the Xia family when they first come to Luxia? Of course, in the original work, Li Yi was brutally cleaned up by the protagonist Ye Feng, and the ending was very tragic. As a result, Xia Xiu was also captured in her heart. How could Jiang Hao let such a thing go unchecked? Counterattack value +20. The system prompt should suddenly sound. This was not unexpected for Jiang Hao. He had long known that Xia Xiu was very clever, and sooner or later he would see the strangeness in today's situation. The reason for such horizontal eyebrows and vertical fingers is simply that the impression is too bad. The next day, Jiang Hao woke up early and drove alone to the southern suburbs. The vehicle stopped in front of a newly built factory, and he entered the area with familiarity before finally reaching the deepest part of the factory. "I want to see Mr. Li," Jiang Hao said to the two big men in front of the door. Coincidentally, these two big men were the ones who followed Xia Xiu yesterday. "Jiang Shao, I really admire you a bit." The leading man grinned with a hint of mockery and said, "People in the upper class call you an artist. Normally, besides pleasing Xia Xiu, you only know how to play the piano and appreciate antiques. But today, I have to admire your courage. Mr. Li didn't tell you not to chew your tongue randomly, otherwise you will become mute." Jiang Hao's eyes suddenly turned cold. This is Mr. Li's base. If he dares to come alone, it means he has enough confidence. And the big man is just a dog under Mr. Li's command. If he doesn't like it, he will naturally curse. Since you are handsome and wealthy, you need to have a handsome and wealthy appearance. It's not something that any cat or dog can joke about casually. Looking at Jiang Hao, the big man gave a fierce smile. He also knows that this is not a wild place, and Mr. Li is still waiting. After a disdainful smile, the big man opened the door. The lighting in the room is somewhat dim, surrounded by smoke. In front of the pitch-black office desk, sat an elderly man who was as thin as a stick, with grey temples, smoking old grass cigarettes. At first glance, the old man is like a candle in the wind, as if time is running out. But Jiang Hao knew that he was a ruthless character, a madman who was so ruthless that he didn't recognize his family and didn't care about the consequences. Entering the office, Jiang Hao first opened the window inside and then sat down on the guest sofa very consciously. Cough. Li Yi coughed fiercely and, while swallowing clouds and mist, looked at Jiang Hao without showing any trace. He pretended not to care and said, "Young Master Jiang, how did you think of me?" Today, Jiang Hao put on a mink coat and was wearing a straight, hot white suit. This combination, coupled with his appearance, vaguely conveys a hint of dominance as a CEO. If it weren't for the wrong timing now, Jiang Hao would definitely say to Mr. Li, "I don't want you to think, I just want me to think." Shaking his head to dispel the funny idea, he tidied up his collar before replying, "I'm here to ask for a gift from you. The market value of the Jiang family company is billions, and your mother's family is even more powerful. Why did Jiang Shao come to me for gifts?" Mr. Li pouted in a strange voice. "Your subordinates are tracking my fiancé AE, and you owe me an explanation." Explanation. I wonder what explanation Jiang Shao needs. Your apology. And. Speaking of which, Jiang Hao looked out of the room and said, "One hand from your subordinate at the door, and one tongue/head." Li Ye's body stagnated, and a hint of darkness appeared in his murky old eyes. Without arguing with Jiang Hao, he suddenly stood up, opened his desk, and took out a silver pistol from it. Click. Opened the insurance, loaded, pointed at Jiang Hao. In one go, with smooth movements, it looks like an expert in using guns all year round. Li Yi has been wandering around for many years. You are the first person to dare to speak up in front of me. Believe it or not, I shot you dead with one shot. Li Yi laughed, revealing his loose golden teeth. No, you won't. Jiang Hao's face remained calm. Oh. Mr. Li squinted his eyes and placed his index finger on the trigger. Do you think I dare not? I dare not offend your Jiang family. No, it's not worth it. Jiang Hao responded again. How is it not worth it? You and the people behind you have been licking blood on the edge of the knife all year round. Many people say you are crazy, Li Yi, but I know you are crazy because you have enough benefits. But kill me. You not only need to run away, but there is no benefit. Chapter 6. Help me cover Ye Feng. New book seeking support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing Jiang Hao's words, Li Ye's eyes clearly showed a lot of surprise. Firstly, he had just settled down and thought he hadn't caught the attention of the big shots in Lushar, but to his surprise, Jiang Hao found his base directly. Secondly, Li Yi didn't expect Jiang Hao to have such a thorough understanding of him. You should know that he is always serious and cruel to everyone, with the aim of portraying himself as a crazy person. Only crazy people dare to provoke. Because a madman disregards everything and cannot think according to common sense. So not killing you doesn't seem to benefit me either, said Mr. Li with a smile, but the gun still didn't go down. Killing Jiang Hao may be troublesome, but he can at least relieve his anger. But if we keep Jiang Hao, he knows with his toes that he will definitely face difficulties from the Jiang family in the future. No. You're wrong. Jiang Hao shook his head again and stood up to look directly at Mr. Li, saying, Don't you want to open an underground casino? The Jiang family just had a piece of land, which is a gathering place for wealthy people, and the surrounding relationships have already been well managed. Upon hearing this, Mr. Li's eyes lit up instantly. With his personality and methods, he certainly wouldn't consider legitimate business. The reason why I hold such a grudge against Xia Siyu is also because my own casino business was ruined. But all of this, where exactly did Jiang Hao know? Can the power of the Jiang family be so great? Can we investigate him thoroughly in such a short period of time? Mr. Li, there are plenty of big shots in Lushar. Apart from those on the surface, there are also many people who I can't even afford. If you want to establish a foothold here, the best way is to unite with the Jiang family. Jiang Hao's voice rang out again. Mr. Li was moved. Jiang Hao's wise pearl was in his grasp, and his resolute demeanor and tone plunged him into contemplation. He always feels like the person in front of him wants to control himself. Thinking of this, Li Ye's eyes became more sinister and his expression became even more ferocious. But the next moment, his eyes suddenly turned and he put away his gun and asked, Price. Tell me the price of that piece of land. 500 million. Plus. One hand, one head, one condition. Jiang Hao immediately replied. So cheap. Mr. Li frowned. The housing prices in Lushar are high and now it is a first-tier city. The area required to open an underground casino is not small. If it is really in a wealthy area, it is definitely worth every inch of land and money, and managing relationships also requires a lot of money. At such a price, it always gives people a feeling of being fishy. Jiang Hao was not in a hurry either. After sitting down again, he poured himself a cup of tea and savored it carefully. After more than 10 minutes, he finally said with a light breeze and light rain, Has Mr. Li ever heard of Wang Gizi? Is that land related to him? Mr. Li suddenly realized. Wang Gizi, an underground tycoon who has been rampant in Lushar for many years. At the moment when Li Yi entered Lushar, he knew that it was only a matter of time before he could clash with Wang Gizi. It is reasonable for the Jiang family to sell land at a low price, as it belongs to the sphere of influence of Wang Gizi. Nowadays, wealthy families are different from before, they all cherish their feathers very much. The rise of a wealthy family has more or less done some shady things. Perhaps feeling guilty in their hearts, or perhaps in order to change their image to the outside world, many wealthy individuals like to do charitable acts after getting rich. Therefore, wealthy families do not want to be associated with underground forces, and the Jiang family is no exception. After thinking about this, Mr. Li's complexion improved slightly. Wang Jizi is not afraid, he is afraid that Jiang Hao will set a trap for him to drill. Besides money, Jiang Hao also needs other things. With Mr. Li's temperament, wouldn't you still feel sorry for just two subordinates? Jiang Hao asked with a hint of mockery. How could it be? Li Yi immediately denied it and lightly stroked his chin, saying, if you don't specify the conditions, I won't dare to nod in this transaction. Upon hearing this, Jiang Hao was immediately taken aback. He found that he still underestimated Li Ye's madness. From beginning to end, Li Yi never considered his feelings. Actually, when I think about it, if Mr. Li really cares, then he probably isn't crazy. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Hao changed his serious expression and said, there is a retired Special Forces soldier named Ye Feng, who may already be in Lushur or may not have arrived yet. If you find out, I hope you slaughter it. Mr. Li gave a cruel smile. No, I want you to take care of him. No matter what he does, for my sake, try not to have a direct conflict with him. Mr. Li was speechless. He thinks his ability to judge people is good. And just now, when Jiang Hao mentioned Ye Feng, his face was clearly filled with a lot of hostility, and even a bit of fear. Who knew he was actually asking him to take care of him? In shock, Mr. Li had no choice but to confirm repeatedly, are you sure you're taking care of me? Jiang Hao nodded, his expression mysterious. Mr. Li is too lazy to ask further questions. Taking care of someone is indeed much easier than killing someone. It is not a difficult condition to give up directly when necessary. Leaving his desk, he regained his old appearance, hunched and hugging his body, and came to the front of Jiang Hao to constantly scrutinize. With such actions, it seems that Mr. Li wants to see through this way what is really going on in the mind of this wealthy second generation born with a golden key. The two of them just looked at each other like this. A few minutes later, Mr. Li gave up. Then, with a friendly expression on his face, he extended his right hand to Jiang Hao. The two shook hands and then laughed at the same time. Immediately after, while pouring tea for Jiang Hao in person, Li Yi shouted to the door, knife and dog, you two come in. The sound came out and the door was instantly opened. The two big men waiting at the door were clearly surprised by the atmosphere between Jiang Hao and Li Yi. Whose hand? Whose head? Li Yi asked Jiang Hao. As soon as he said this, the big man named Dao and Guzi trembled instantly, and a small cold sweat appeared on his forehead. No one else was present, so they naturally knew what Li Ye's words meant. With a splash, the big man named Dao knelt down and begged, Jiang Shao. Just outside the door, I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. I'm just mouthless, give me a chance. I promise I won't chew my tongue again. Why don't you chop my hand? Please. Mr. Li instantly understood. No wonder he felt that Jiang Hao's request was a bit strange. If he really wanted to vent his anger on Xia Xiu, he could have had two hands. After a long commotion, it was the knife that said something that shouldn't have been said. But just casually chewing on his tongue, Jiang Hao will become mute after using the knife. For thugs, disability and mute are not the same concept. With no hands left, relying on years of fighting experience, they can still stand firm on the road, and even this can become a medal for them to show off in the future. Can you become mute? How can Dao lead other thugs in the future, and how can he represent Mr. Li to negotiate business? It has to be said that Jiang Hao has such a vengeful and somewhat cruel personality. Li Yi really likes it. Chapter 7. Host, you are truly cunning, new book seeks support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing that Jiang Hao did not respond, he just drank tea on his own and occasionally glanced at the limited edition Patek Philippe watch in his hand. Mr. Li understands, and so does the knife. When Mr. Li's gaze had become dangerous, the knife finally accepted his fate. He grabbed his own head with one hand and a jumping knife with the other, trembling uncontrollably in fear. With a horizontal heart, the hand holding the knife suddenly exerted force. Pushi, blood was overflowing, and the dog standing beside him was stunned by the scene and fainted. Tisk, it's really troublesome. Li chuckled and signaled that the knife could leave, then personally operated the knife and cut off the dog's left hand. Do you think your right hand is better? Asked Mr. Li afterwards. Indeed, my right hand is better, but I'm in a hurry today, that's it. In the blood-filled room, Jiang Hao's face remained calm and his words remained unmoved. When will we trade? Mr. Li asked again. Jiang Hao did not respond directly, but went to his desk, took Li Ye's business card, and then left directly. Wait for my call. Roy the sports car made a pleasant sound and drove away under the guidance of Jiang Hao. Mr. Li personally delivered it to the door, but it was delayed in returning. Today, he found that the rumors were not credible. Not many wealthy second-generation individuals can still remain calm in the bloody scene in the office just now. Perhaps Jiang Hao's fashion, but Mr. Li doesn't care. After all, even if you pretend, there aren't many people who can pretend so much. I have to be cautious, this Jiang Shao is not a fuel-efficient lamp. After murmuring, Mr. Li began to call to raise funds. A few minutes later, on a road about 1 kilometer away from here, Jiang Hao parked the sports car on the roadside, then rushed straight out of the car and plunged into the nearby bushes. Ugh! A nauseating sound appeared and lasted for several minutes. After returning to the vehicle, Jiang Hao kept pouring mineral water into his mouth, but his face remained somewhat pale. The reason why Dao and Guzi have to pay the price is not because he really wants to retaliate, but because he wants to use this to intimidate Li Yi. Li Yi is not a bad person. If Jiang Hao behaves too cowardly, not only will today's transaction not be completed, but he may even be bitten back by Li Yi in the future. Host, I have a question. The sound of the system echoed in my mind. This surprised Jiang Hao a bit. He had already noticed that the system had thoughts, but he didn't expect it to be so direct. Ask me, but don't be so cold in the future, it will scare me. Jiang Hao rolled his eyes. Good host, this system just wants to ask, why do you want Mr. Li to take care of Ye Feng? This behavior conflicts with the path of counterattack. I don't even understand how simple it is. Jiang Hao was speechless for a moment, took a deep breath before explaining, because I don't want to give Ye Feng any chance to pretend to be slapped in the face. A word awakens the dreamer, and the system suddenly realizes. In the original work, Ye Feng's first enemy was Li Yi, and it was because he destroyed Li Yi that he gained great fame. But if Mr. Li doesn't conflict with him, then all these plots will disappear. And these are just small plots, they won't be twisted by the will of the world. Perhaps realizing that Jiang Hao was easy to speak and the system's courage had grown, he asked again, when will the host tell Xia Siyu about this? Why tell her? If the host doesn't say it, Xia Siyu won't know. How can she be moved by the host's behavior? And how can she strategize? System, it seems that your emotional intelligence is a bit low. Jiang Hao shook his head and put on a confident expression. Now Xia Siyu still dislikes me, even if she knows these things, it will only slightly change her impression of me. But if at a specific time, a specific place, she suddenly realizes that I have silently done so much for her. And she has been misunderstanding me. So. I see. Host, you are so cunning. Fart it, this is called a strategy. Xia Siyu's difficulty is too high, how can he go without some strategy? Where are the hosts going now? Anping County. Anping County is not far from Lushur, and it is only an hour's drive away. Jiang Hao remembers clearly that there were two plotlines in which Ye Feng appeared. The first one was due to threatening letters, so he became Xia Siyu's bodyguard. Now that Li Yi and Jiang Hao are in a joint relationship, and Xia Siyu is his fiancée AE, the plot of the threatening letter will naturally disappear. And the second one is entrusted by comrades in arms. Ye Feng has been serving abroad and his records cannot even be found domestically. Due to performing confidential tasks, he and his comrades were completely unable to contact their loved ones. Once during an operation, a comrade in arms blocked a bullet for Ye Feng and unfortunately died. Before his death, this comrade handed Ye Feng a photo and entrusted his only sister to him. That's right, the plot is so cliché and bloody. For first-time readers of Xiaobeiwen, there is indeed a lot of anticipation, and some can even be moved by the so-called comrade basic feelings. Since Xia Siyu is currently unable to conquer, why not temporarily shift the target? Jiang Hao is looking forward to it. When Ye Feng rushed to his comrade's house and found that his sister had been completely captivated by him, what kind of expression would she show? Haha. Just thinking about it made him burst into laughter. Buzzing, the vibration of the phone interrupted the laughter inside the car. It was Jiang Hao's mother, Jiang Lan, who called. Hao, your uncle Xia personally brought your sports car. Where are you now? Come back quickly and meet them. Jiang Lan's puzzled voice rang from the phone. Today, Jiang Hao went out without a bodyguard and did not inform her of his itinerary, which made her a bit worried. Jiang Hao felt a bit helpless about his mother who was extremely protective of him. After casually making up an excuse, he changed his tone and said, Mom, do you still remember the land in the north of the city? North of the city. Jiang Lan was momentarily stunned before suddenly saying, Are you talking about Wang Jizi? Due to the temporary inability to acquire that piece of land, the Jiang family has chosen to temporarily ignore it and plan to wait for Wang Jizi to collapse before proceeding with development. If it weren't for Jiang Hao mentioning it, Jiang Lan would have almost forgotten. This is understandable, after all, things in the company have always been taken care of by Jiang Hao's father. Well, I helped you sell it, 500 million. Really? Jiang Lan on the phone was clearly surprised. Well, when the trading time is set in 2 days, I'll talk to you in detail. I have something to do today, so I won't go back to accompany you for dinner. Say hello to Uncle Xia for me. Wait, Hao, please explain to me how you. Before Jiang Lan finished speaking, Jiang Hao hastily hung up the phone. There's no way. If Jiang Lan found out that her son, without any bodyguards, ran alone to the location of the underground forces, she would definitely be frightened. Chapter 8. I Still Pity My Sister Yang Qing, New Book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang's Villa. Doodle doodle. Listening to the hang-up sound on her phone, Jiang Lan blinked in confusion. She originally wanted to call back, but at this moment, Xia Guodong came over. Lan Jie. What's wrong? Where's Xiaohao? Xia Guodong asked 3 times as he spoke. Due to Xia Guodong being several months younger than Jiang Lan and Jiang Lan's family background, Xia Guodong is privately referred to as Lan Jie. Guodong, do you still remember the piece of land in the north of the city? The one purchased by the Jiang family for 700 million yuan 2 years ago, Jiang Lan asked blankly. Remember. Xia Guodong nodded and sighed again. The location of that land is very good, with several wealthy neighborhoods and many high-end clubs around it. It's just a pity, Wang Jizi and the Jiang family are not very compatible. The Jiang family and Wang Jizi have some conflicts, and they have not been in contact with each other for a long time. When the Jiang family acquired the land 2 years ago, it had not yet developed. If it were sold at market price now, it would probably be worth over 1 billion yuan. Thinking that Jiang Lan was worried about the land, Xia Guodong comforted and said, "Lan Jie, actually you don't have to worry about this. Wang Jizi will eventually lose patience and come to you to buy back the land." "And Hao just told me that he sold that piece of land," Jiang Lan interrupted. Xia Guodong blinked in confusion, then dug out his own ear. It's not surprising that he suspects he has hallucinations. You should know that no family dares to take over the land in the north of the city now. Mainly because Wang Jizi is not easy to deal with. If the Jiang and Xia families belong to the wealthy families on the surface of Lushur, then Wang Jizi is the underground emperor. There used to be many underground forces in Lushur, but they were ultimately defeated by Wang Jizi. Now as long as he doesn't make any excessive moves, even the authorities dare not intervene without authorization. Who let Wang Jizi's henchmen have thousands of horses and connections with some international underground giants? Compared to the recklessness of underground forces, wealthy families cherish their feathers and are more restrained. Taking a 10,000 steps back, even if a wealthy family forcefully conflicts head-on with Wang Jizi, in order to win, many relationships and forces must be used. It's not worth considering the favors that may be owed as a result, as well as the impact it may have on the family's reputation. But in this situation, Jiang Hao actually sold the land. Sold to whom? Who dares to take over? I'm not quite sure about the specifics, but you know Hao's personality, he never jokes like this. Jiang Lan shook her head, her eyes mixed with pride and concern. Xia Guodong fell into silence directly. In the past, if Yang Qing had any shortcomings, it would probably be that he lacked a strong career ambition and preferred playing the piano and appreciating treasures over his career. However, in the eyes of the Xia family, this is just a trivial matter. Because the Jiang family is already wealthy enough, it is not easy for such a family to take another step forward. Recently, Xiaohao has undergone some significant changes, Xia Guodong sighed after a long time. Yeah, but that's not a bad thing either. As long as it's not in danger, let him go and mess around. This is better than. Speaking of this, Jiang Lan fell silent. What she actually wants to say is that it's better than following Xia Xiu every day and being ridiculed and mocked. How could Jiang Lan not know Xia Xiu's attitude towards Jiang Hao? If it weren't for being very satisfied with Xia Xiu and Jiang Hao being determined, she would have cut off contact with the Xia family long ago. Lan Jie, it's all Xiu's fault. I'll teach her a good lesson when I go back. Xia Guodong heard something, his tone was extremely sincere. Jiang Lan raised her hand to stop it, and then invited Xia Guodong to sit down. After preparing the famous tea, she gave a gentle smile. Guodong, let's not worry about the children's affairs. Let them solve it themselves. You should have other things to attend to today, right? Not bad, Xia Guodong readily admitted and said seriously, Lan Jie, have you ever heard of a person nicknamed Mr. Li? Mr. Li. Jiang Lan frowned slightly. Well, Xiu has been using many connections recently just to find Mr. Li. I have also checked and it seems that there is no such person in Lushur. There is indeed none in Lushur, but there is one in the neighboring city. Are you saying? Xia Guodong thought of something and his eyes suddenly opened. Yes, that's the person who even the lame king encountered and had to walk around. He does have a nickname under his hand, Li Yi, also known as Li Madman. Anping County. After Jiang Hao arrived, he drove straight to the county hospital. The cool sports car, the unique aura of the second-generation wealthy, and Jiang Hao's good appearance have caused countless flower-crazy girls to scream along the way. The environment of the county hospital is not good, so families who come here for treatment will naturally not be wealthy. Recalling the plot in the original work and looking at the signboard, Jiang Hao walked directly towards the inpatient department. In the original work, the woman entrusted to Ye Feng was named Yang Qing. Yang Qing is not very old and has just reached adulthood. She has an appearance that can score at least 90 points, and was known as a common school flower when she was in school. Perhaps because she comes from a single-parent family, or perhaps because her appearance has caused too much trouble, Yang Qing has a gentle personality and is also somewhat introverted. Jiang Hao remembers that at this time, it should be the time when Yang Qing's mother fell ill. When Ye Feng arrived in the original work, Yang Qing's mother had already gone to another world with longing for her son because she had no money to treat her illness. Due to becoming alone and learning that Ye Feng is my brother's comrade in arms. So at the moment Ye Feng appeared, it aroused many favorable feelings from Yang Qing. Finally, she played the role of a capable sister, and was taken good care of by Ye Feng. How could Jiang Hao let such a tragic thing happen? Let me take care of this capable sister. Who makes me feel better? Jiang Hao let out a long sigh and walked out of the elevator. The hallway was filled with the smell of disinfectant, with haggard faces and desperate patients everywhere. Although I remember Yang Qing was here, Jiang Hao was not clear about the specific ward, so he casually asked a nurse for help. The nurse was originally very impatient. But when she saw Jiang Hao's appearance and clothing, she instantly turned into a flower addict. Not only did he tell Yang Qing where he was, but he even turned around and wanted Jiang Hao's WeChat. Hey, what's good about Yang Qing? Although she's beautiful, she's inexperienced. No one like me knows what to do. The little nurse was very angry as she watched Jiang Hao leave. Jiang Hao didn't hear this sentence, even if he did, he wouldn't care. Can a passerby compare to the female lead? After searching, Jiang Hao finally arrived at the hospital room deep in the corridor. Little sister, your mother probably can't do it. Why don't you let Uncle Me take care of you? I heard you're short on medical expenses. So, why don't you spend some time with me? I'll give you 5,000 yuan. Is it okay to speak up for 5,000? I'll offer 10,000. Do you people still have human nature? Can't you be so sad without seeing your little sister? Let me comfort her. Chapter 9. Philanthropist Jiang Hao, new book seeks support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as he arrived, Jiang Hao heard various disgusting languages. At this moment, Yang Qing was surrounded by many men and couldn't see her face clearly. Jiang Hao originally planned to go up directly and drive away these ill-intentioned men, but after thinking about it, he dispelled the idea. Yang Qing today is the most helpless and sensitive time. He is not an ordinary person at first glance. How could he appear in such a hospital? This can easily lead to imagination. After observing for a moment, Jiang Hao returned to the corridor and saw that these men only dared to show off their skills and dared not take any further action. He went to the deepest window and dialed a number directly. Notify the director of Anping County Hospital that I have come and want to fund a batch of medical equipment. I am currently inspecting the inpatient department. Hanging up the phone, Jiang Hao waited with a bored expression on his face. In the ward belonging to Yang Qing, the sound of disgust persisted, and occasionally a middle-aged woman's cursing could be heard. About 10 minutes later, the elevator in the distance was opened, and a middle-aged man with half-framed eyes and a Mediterranean head, wearing a white coat, rushed out in a hurry, shouting loudly. Behind the middle-aged man, there are also many experts from hospitals. There, that must be Mr. Jiang. A certain expert pointed at Jiang Hao, as if he had found his own father, extremely excited. The dean glanced at it and breathed a sigh of relief. Although he had never met Jiang Hao, he was quite conspicuous among ordinary people. Jiang Shao, Jiang Shao. The dean kept waving and running towards Jiang Hao with the experts while shouting. Finally here. Jiang Hao nodded in satisfaction and smiled kindly at the dean. Jiang Shao, I am the director of this hospital, surnamed Ma. Why didn't you notify me when you arrived? This is really making me anxious. Besides, where can you stay? How about we go to the director's office to discuss more? Dean Ma wiped the sweat off his forehead, his excited words trembling slightly. The same goes for other experts, who looked at Jiang Hao with a scorching gaze. If it weren't for their concern about offending Jiang Hao, they would have come forward and had a conversation. Dean Ma, your hospital is a bit special, Jiang Hao said with deep meaning as he looked at the ward where Yang Qing was located. The dean naturally didn't understand, but when he figured out the situation, his face immediately sank like water. What's this called? The financial situation of the county hospital was already tight, and after finally waiting for the wealthy to donate, this embarrassing scene appeared again. Listen to the words of those men. I don't know, I thought this was some dirty trading place. Jiang rarely forgives. Some patients have a low level of education and haven't studied for a few years. So when they see a beautiful woman, they can't walk anymore. Dean Ma quickly explained. But this kind of thing needs to be managed, after all, the inpatient department is a place for patients to rest, sighed Jiang Hao. Yes, yes. Jiang Shao is right, I will scold them immediately. No, let me do it. The patients' minds are already unstable. As the dean, it's better not to have conflicts with them. Upon hearing these words, the dean was deeply moved and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Take a look. This is the truly wealthy second generation. Not only does it lack heirs, but it also considers others. With emotion, Jiang Hao had already entered the ward. The dean was worried about accidents and subsequently entered with the experts. The group were not ordinary people and had a large number of people, which quickly caught the attention of the patients. When the dean arrived, the men surrounding Yang Qing quickly dispersed and returned to the hospital bed, quietly observing Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao turned a blind eye to these. As his vision suddenly opened up, the girl on the right side of the hospital bed immediately caught his attention. The girl doesn't apply makeup, but her skin is still fair as snow. She just sat quietly, but it was enough to make everything pale. And those large and agile beautiful eyes, combined with the hidden tears, can make people feel cared for by life. This woman must be Yang Qing without a doubt. When reading the original work, although the author also put in a lot of effort to describe the beauty of the female leads. But it was only at this moment that Jiang Hao truly understood the meaning of beauty. Xia Xiu is like this, and Yang Qing is also like this. Hello, may I ask if you need any help? Jiang Hao approached with a smile like a spring breeze. Upon hearing this, Yang Qing did not respond, but instead buried her head lower, completely ignoring her gaze. Such strong resistance made Jiang Hao show such an expression as expected. He was fortunate that he had made sufficient preparations, otherwise he might have left a bad impression on Yang Qing. Are you? The middle-aged woman on the hospital bed asked. She is Yang Qing's mother, a typical rural woman with a solid face, but due to illness and long-term fatigue, she has become particularly haggard. He is Jiang Shao from Lushire. The Jiang family has assets worth billions and is even more famous as a philanthropist. The dean knew that the opportunity had arrived and immediately approached to introduce him. As soon as these words were spoken, the patients in the ward instantly exploded. Billions. Isn't this the super-rich second generation? Did Jiang Shao also take a liking to that little sister? Unfortunately, I heard that the wealthy second generation is someone who likes to start over and give up. Yang Qing's younger sister, please don't fall for it. The sound of discussion finally made Yang Qing react, slowly lifting her head and giving Jiang Hao a timid glance. At this glance, it strikes directly at the soul. There are many wealthy people who want to get Yang Qing, but she has never seen a wealthy person with such clean eyes and such a gentle smile. More importantly, Jiang Hao's appearance is really not bad. The two looked at each other for a few seconds. Perhaps realizing that she was a bit impolite, Yang Qing lowered her head again, and many blushes appeared on both sides of her cheeks. At this moment, the discussion among the patients is still ongoing. The dean couldn't bear to listen anymore, his eyes disdainful, and he looked around and said, do you think Jiang Hao is as dirty as you? He's coming to the county hospital this time and wants to do charity activities. Humph. What kind of charity event? I'm sure you're trying to take advantage of my daughter. I'm warning you, whoever dares to hit my daughter's attention, I won't let him go even if I'm a ghost. Yang's mother didn't believe it and forced herself to stand up, her eyes full of caution. You. The dean was very angry with Yang's mother. If this sentence were to make Jiang Hao cancel the hospital's funding, he would have the heart to strangle Yang's mother. The female lead strategy was already not easy, and Jiang Hao was mentally prepared for it earlier. Without arguing with Yang's mother, he looked at the dean and said, "Let's go. The medical expenses for this mother and daughter will be fully funded by me." After speaking, Jiang Hao turned around and left. The dean cast a "you're lucky" look at Yang's mother and Yang Qing, and quickly left. The ward has once again returned to tranquility. After staring at her mother for a long time, Yang Qing looked at the direction of Jiang Hao's departure, and a different expression appeared in her beautiful eyes. "Daughter, don't be deceived. There's nothing so good in the world. We need to live with dignity because we're short-handed." Yang's mother scolded in an extremely weak voice. Mom, I got it. Chapter 10. Ye Feng appears. New book seeks support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After leaving the hospital, Jiang Hao did not return to Lushar, but stayed at the best hotel in the county town. He has a premonition that Yang Qing will come to find him soon. Jiang Hao naturally wanted to help Yang Qing now, but unfortunately, both the mother and daughter had strong willpower, and it seemed that they would not accept his donation at all. The breakthrough in the matter requires an opportunity. "Mom, I'm going to stay outside for a few days. It's nothing, I just want to come out and relax." "Don't worry, it's really nothing. I'll be back in a few days at most. By the way, I have already agreed to buy land and donate medical equipment as soon as possible." Hanging up Jiang Lan's phone, Jiang Hao stretched lazily. On the phone, Jiang Lan felt very uneasy about him not returning home at night, and even wanted to send bodyguards over multiple times. However, with Jiang Hao's insistence, she could only reluctantly agree. This stay will last for 2 days. In the past 2 days, Jiang Hao has already finalized the transaction with Mr. Li. He is worried that the people of the Jiang family may have objections, so he specifically instructed Mr. Li not to reveal his own details. In the afternoon, the news of successful trading came. Mr. Li specially called Jiang Hao and invited him to have dinner together another day. "By the way, Jiang Hao, your friend named Ye Feng is a bit awkward," Li Yi suddenly said. "Did you meet him?" Jiang Hao felt a thud in his heart. "Well, one of my subordinates was working at the train station today and was accidentally caught by Ye Feng. I just pulled him out of the police station." "You didn't have any conflict with him, did you?" "Don't worry, this small matter won't make me tear up, my promise. But your friend was really ruthless, he just disabled my subordinate's arm." Li Yi chuckled lightly, unable to tell whether he was happy or angry on the phone. In fact, there are many people named Ye Feng. The reason why Li Yi is certain that he is Ye Feng is still because of his skills. According to the subordinates he rescued, Ye Feng's speed is so fast that he can't see clearly. And with great strength and a ruthless heart. All of this is in line with the characteristics of retired Special Forces soldiers. "Did you finally come? It seems I need to hurry up." After the call, Jiang Hao murmured softly. At this moment, he felt restless for the first time. Ye Feng's sudden appearance left Yang Qing without any progress. If there is no change on Yang Qing's side, he can only take the initiative again. Although this may leave a negative impression on Yang Qing, at this point, there is not much to consider, and no matter what, Ye Feng should not be allowed to contact Yang Qing first. Late at night, in the ward of the county hospital, Yang Qing sat on the chair outside the operating room, crying bitterly. Just now, her mother's condition suddenly worsened and she was directly pushed into the operating room. Due to rejecting Jiang Hao's funding, the hospital issued an ultimatum yesterday, demanding that Yang Qing make up for the outstanding medical expenses. Seeking help everywhere was fruitless, and my mother finally couldn't hold on. At this moment, Yang Qing suddenly remembered which day Jiang Hao was in the ward. If she accepts Jiang Hao's support and sincerely seeks his help, can her mother persist for an additional 2 days? Or perhaps it will heal. Self-blame, regret. From childhood to adulthood, Yang Qing has always adhered to her original intention and remembered her mother's teachings. For the first time, she had the idea of willing to give everything as long as she could save her mother. Hey! A faint sigh sounded from my side. Yang Qing looked up and saw the director of the county hospital. With a thud, she knelt down on both knees. Tears couldn't stop flowing, and the world was hazy, but Yang Qing still begged, "Dean Ma, please. Please save my mother. What are you doing? Get up quickly." The dean was startled. Yang Qing's mother has a terminal illness. There is no hope of cure for terminal illness, and at most, medication can prolong life, which is not affordable for ordinary families. Why do you need to do this? I know you don't have a good impression of wealthy people, but Jiang Shao is really different. If you accept Jiang Shao's support, your mother wouldn't be in danger now. Seeing Yang Qing not getting up for a long time, the dean could only tell the truth. If it weren't for Jiang Hao's sake, he wouldn't even arrange the best experts for rescue. Because everyone knows Yang Qing can't even afford the cost of this surgery. This remark caught Yang Qing's ear and she cried even more fiercely. Bang! The door of the operating room was suddenly pushed open, and a nurse wearing a mask rushed out. Yang Qing suddenly stood up and quickly approached to inquire about the situation. But what answered her was a critically ill notice. You should be mentally prepared. With the conditions of our hospital, the chances of successful rescue are not high, sighed the nurse. Boom! Yang Qing stumbled one by one, and a terrifying thunder appeared in her mind. At this moment, she is so helpless and desperate. If you are willing to compromise, perhaps your mother still has a few more days to survive, the dean's words rang in his ear. Really, Yang Qing's eyes lit up as she firmly grasped the dean's sleeve and said, "What should I do? Call Jiang Shao." Half an hour later, Jiang Hao appeared at the entrance of the operating room. After checking the time, it was already 3 a.m. Without comfort, Yang Qing, who was already in tears and leaning against the wall, asked the dean, "How is the situation? How long can the patient hold on?" "The situation is critical, and now the patient has lost the ability to breathe autonomously, relying solely on a ventilator for suspension." "How much longer is there?" 40 minutes. If you don't transfer to another hospital for treatment within 40 minutes, it's hard to save immortals." "Well, I understand. Good hospitals are all in Lushur, but Anping is an hour away from Lushur. In other words, even if we transfer now, there won't be enough time." After hearing these, Yang Qing burst into tears again. Jiang Hao couldn't bear it and handed over a tissue while comforting, "It's okay, your mother won't die." Unexpectedly, these words became the last straw that crushed Yang Qing. Various emotions surged in her heart, and after her fragrant shoulders trembled continuously, she collapsed directly. Opening Jiang Hao's hand, Yang Qing shouted hysterically. "Why do you say that? What do you wealthy people know? What if you have more money? Can you buy time? Can you buy lifespan? Even if you are a billionaire, can you run past the grim reaper behind my mother's back?" A hoarse voice makes one sad. But Jiang Hao didn't respond and just listened quietly. It was not until Yang Qing showed signs of fainting due to excessive grief that he resolutely uttered a word. "Yes." The world suddenly became quiet, and the word lingered on the passage for a long time. The crying suddenly came to an end, and Yang Qing was as stiff as a string puppet. She hopes what Jiang Hao said is true, she hopes there is really a turning point in everything, but reality is very cruel. In an instant. Da-da-da. There was a piercing noise outside the hospital, and with the appearance of several rays of light, the surroundings felt like daylight. Yang Qing guessed something and quickly looked out the window. What caught her eye? It's a medical helicopter.